So there were challenges in hooking up those computers.
There were technical and scientific challenges, right? I mean, even today we still don't know how to get arbitrary programs to talk to arbitrary programs. But I think if we learn to structure the way they talk to each other better, we might have a chance of cracking that problem.
I think it's still the issue of interoperability in terms of making all different systems work together.
Well, that's what the original internet certainly was about. How do you get from one kind of the network through another network to an end computer, all necessarily different in principle. And that was a really interesting technical problem which we in fact solved. Now, I think we need to move beyond that to more fundamental questions of how do you access the information, which is what I talked about today, and then how do you make different programs, maybe written by different people in different time frames, learn to be able to interface with each other, assuming that they're interested in that.
Currently people are talking about the Internet of Things, IoT, and some people are harping lyrical about it. This is a new El Dorado, or what do you think about this future?
It's just another application of the Internet. In fact, what I think they should do is what I mentioned in my remarks is that every one of these things should have embedded some kind of little chip that implements the essential elements of this digital object architecture, so these things can interact with other things.
Digital object.
Yeah. So that you can ask the thermometer, of course, the equivalent of what's the average temperature here during August or something, and maybe it knows because it's keeping track of it in the form of maybe it's reading the temperature every minute all day. And so it knows what the highs and the lows are, and as opposed to just what it is right now. Because they have to go somewhere else to figure that out, and that's probably where you'd want to go for historical data, like what was it 100 years ago. You don't want to ask the thermometer now. But
speaking of historical data, how are these systems important in terms of preserving our cultural asset?
Well, it's an architectural approach that can help to do that. Still needs people. I mean, these things don't materialize all by themselves, but you need an architectural framework to do it. People need to know how they can access this information, and it's got to be in a form where they can manifest it once they get these objects. And, that's actually, in part, an unsolved problem in general, because you could get back objects that are encrypted. If you don't have the keys or don't have the permissions, you're not going to find out what they're about. But for most of the things that people are interested in that are public are intended to be made publicly available, then you just have to be able to access the information through whatever the programs are that know how to interpret it.
In terms of internet security, do you think all the data out there should be encrypted?
Don't have an opinion on that. Encrypting data is up to the party who creates it. If they want to encrypt it, that should be their choice, subject only to whatever the laws are where they live. In some cases, there are issues about sending encrypted data that's got too strong encryption across borders. Other cases, not. So that's a combination of what the individual wants and what the country mandates in terms of its laws.
Companies and governments are capturing massive data about ourselves and all the things out there. There are concerns. What do you think about these concerns?
My only feeling is that if you deal with an organization that's going to have access to a lot of your personal data, they really ought to make it clear what they can or won't do with the data that they acquire. So right now it's very hard to understand. They may say nobody will look at it, but they may have programs mining it. Free services are free for a reason, and you may be paying them with your personal information because they're monetizing it in other ways. I think that's fine. Those are business approaches. It's just that companies ought to be clear about what they intend to do with the information that they collect. It's my personal view.
Professor Robert Kahn, thank you very much for your insight.
You're very welcome. Thank you.